I'm Dr. Deb Butler, and you are listening to Thinner Peace in Menopause and Beyond. This is episode number 471. Welcome to Thinner Peace in Menopause and Beyond. This is Dr. Deb Butler, Master Life and Weight Coach, and as always, your coach. If you're a woman and you're smart and you're successful and you've been struggling with weight your whole life, and now menopause is making it harder than ever, and you are ready to make this the last time you ever have to go on a diet again, then this podcast is for you. Stay tuned. Well, hello, all my dear friends all over the world. Today, as you may or may not know, I am doing Jumpstart Wednesdays. And I thought for those of you who haven't jumped on yet, I would play a recording of the last Jumpstart that I did on You Can't Believe Everything You Think, because I think everybody needs to hear this. So whatever you do when you listen to my podcast, take a walk, take a drive, or take a bubble bath like I like to do, listen to the last Jumpstart Wednesday that I did on You Can't Believe Everything You Think. And if you haven't jumped on to any of my Jumpstart Wednesdays, you always can do that by going to drdebbutler.com/jump. And you can join me this Wednesday. See you soon. Hi, everybody. Come on in. I'm Dr. Deb Butler, for those of you who may not know me, and we're jumpstarting our Wednesday. So if you need a jumpstart, you're in the right place. So today, the real reason that I went from chiropractic into life coaching is because I was really into helping people with their minds, because that's just what I like to do. Even as a chiropractor, I just like to sit and talk to people and know what's going on up there. And it just always fascinated me. I wanted to have a better way of being able to help people, because I just feel like since I've been little, I've always just had this connection into human minds, and that I can see people in a way that I don't think that they can see themselves. And it's because I think, as I've learned more about psychology and coaching, is that I know that sometimes what people say isn't anything of what they mean. And a lot of times I know more what they mean just because I know, and I don't even know how I know. But as I've been given and taught tools over time, so I started out in chiropractic and working much more so on the physical body. And the more I worked on the physical body, the more I was intrigued by the mind, which kind of led me into coaching. And then from coaching, it led me into the whole idea of eating and food and losing weight, because I was trying to figure out, as a life coach, what kind of niche could I offer somebody with the expertise that I already have in my background. And one of the things I always dealt with as a chiropractor was dealing with women who were never happy with their bodies and always wanted to lose weight, never did what they said they were going to do, and always knew what to do, just didn't do it. And that really intrigued me. And since I had my own issues that I didn't even think I had an issue with, because I thought I had a way of dealing with my weight, going up and down in weight all the time, and using Weight Watchers as a way of losing weight. And when I wasn't on Weight Watchers, I was just busy, disconnected from my body, eating and drinking. And for some reason, that was okay. I don't know why. But it was really interesting as I got more into it and got more into life coaching, and then met a life coach that got into helping people with emotional eating, and which kind of got into my head is that, oh, what do you know? That's what I do. Like, really? Because I did it for so long, but I thought because I had a way of managing the weight that I didn't have a problem with it. When in reality, and I know I've said this so many times, but in reality, what I learned is the first time she said, "Why do you eat when you're not hungry?" It was such a foreign concept and question, but it changed everything for me in terms of why I ended up dealing with helping people lose weight because it's really not what you're eating. It's what's eating your head. It's what's going on up in your mind. That was intriguing to me. And, that I ended up creating program after program of you tell me what you're eating and I'm going to tell you what you're thinking. And we got to get that thinking straight because the eating isn't really your problem. It's just what got your attention because it's this weight thing. And I just heard this interview with Lizzo, and she lost a lot of weight, is what I found out. The podcast was On Purpose with I can't remember his last name, Jay Shetty. And she says, and I just loved it because it's like, I am going to use this all the time and I'm going to give her credit. But she doesn't talk about how much weight she lost. And the reason that she said that, she says her boyfriend said, well, where did it go? She says, well, I've lost 5 pounds. Started out, and her boyfriend said, well, where did it go? And it just made her laugh because when you talk about losing weight, that's what it sounds like it went someplace. So she likes to talk about weight release. I love that because I think when I'm working with people, they release the weight as they release the burden of what's going on in their head. And that is what I do. I help people release weight, not lose weight. Because I hate even calling myself, I really don't like to call myself like a weight loss coach, but I love the idea of a weight release. I just love it. Releasing the burden that's holding on to the weight. Why are you eating when you're not hungry? What are you trying to distract yourself from when you're eating when you're not hungry? So I am just saying you can use that if you want, but what are you trying to release? Because it seems like it's a food problem. It seems like you have a problem. But in reality, I don't think it's any of that. I just think that it's a way for you to deal with what's going on inside of you that you're not wanting to look at. You'd rather look at your problem with weight than you'd like to look at what the problem is or what the burden is that you're really wanting to release. And if you've heard any of the interviews that I've done with anybody who has worked with me over the years, is that's usually how they talk. They talk about this release. They talk about these burdens that are released. They don't talk about losing the weight as much as they talk about what happens to them in their life that allowed that to happen. And that's why it's kind of like a change. It's like a big life changing thing, right? Because when you figure out why you're putting food in your mouth when you're not hungry, you're going to figure out a lot of things. And that is what I am passionate about. So today, what I thought I would talk about that I think would be interesting is this whole idea of you can't believe everything that you think, which is really my platform. And that's really why I wanted to be a life coach, is because I think that when people talk to me and they're telling me their stories, I do the same thing. I believe everything I'm saying. And I don't realize half the time that half the things that I'm saying are just things that I have conjured up, that I've made up, that are just thoughts. And these thoughts are either helping me get closer to what I want, they're creating my reality no matter what, or they're taking me further away. So do you know what you're thinking? So that's kind of the purpose of everything that I do. And one of the ways that I do it is I teach a tool called the model. And I don't know, you can just tell me on this Q&A. Rosemary, I know you're here, so I know you know that model. How much have you heard me speak about this either on my podcast or whatever? Do you know a lot about it? You just want to put in the Q&A? Because what I'm going to do is I'm just going to talk about it. And then I want you to think about the difference between, do you know the difference between a fact and a thought? And I'm going to show you, like, I think every problem can be solved in your life if you know how to do this model. So I'm going to just explain it to you a little bit, and I'm going to show it to you. So this is basically what the model looks like. I call it a self-coaching model. And it's because once you understand how this works, and Rosemary, who is taking this class, she's been in classes with me before. And this is really one of the things that she wants to work on. And she's been a client and she's a student. And the better you get at this, the better you're going to get at creating the kind of life that you want. Because If you look at this model, it always starts with a circumstance. So, a circumstance, and when you're looking at this model and you're looking at this column, it always goes in this order. It never goes any other way. It's CTFAR. And you can fill it out any way you want. It just has to be in this order in order for you to figure out your own problems. So, a circumstance is a fact. It's your past, it's other people's behavior, it's world events, it's things that can be proven in court. So, for instance, I don't know what your sky's like, but we have a blue sky right now. We didn't, but right now we have a blue sky and the sun is out. So, a circumstance or a fact is the sky is blue. It's a fact. Nobody can really disagree with it. It can be proven in court. Basically, when it's a fact, everybody agrees. Now, the interesting thing about a circumstance is a circumstance can trigger a T or a thought, which is a sentence in your mind. It triggers that you think about something based on the blue sky. So if I'm talking about a blue sky, your thought may be that that's depressing. I don't like blue skies. Or somebody else may think that makes me happy. All of those are sentences in your head that will create a feeling, but they're also in some ways just made up. In other words, you're just making it up. You think it's a fact. Sometimes you can think, well, blue skies make me happy. You might think that belongs in the sea line, but it doesn't. A blue sky belongs in your sea line. So I just call it the sea line or the circumstance line. And it's the only thing in a model that you cannot change. And the beauty about the model that I'm teaching you is that everything underneath the circumstance is up to you. Because don't believe everything you think, because what you think, these sentences in your head that just kind of run around up there, you may have been thinking them for so long that you actually think they're facts. But once you can start catching your thoughts, the beauty about thoughts is they're only as true as you think they are, which means you can change anything that you're thinking, but you cannot change a fact. You can't change the circumstance. A sky that's blue is blue at this moment in time. That's it. What you think about it is totally up to you. And if you find that you're always thinking the same thing and you're always creating a negative feeling, because thoughts create feelings, they trigger feelings or an emotion, which is a vibration in your body. So, according to the coaching that I do and the coaching that I've been taught, is your feelings come from your thinking. So however you're feeling is coming from something that you're thinking, a sentence in your head that is triggered by a fact. And facts cannot be changed. They are what they are. If we're talking about the world right now or anything that happened in the news today, it's a fact. If it was said and it can be proven and everybody said, yeah, I heard that, it becomes a fact. And anything that's happened in the past, anything that's happened in your past, if it happened, it's a circumstance. You can put it in the sea line. Now, your past, the facts about what happened, for instance, maybe somebody said something to you when you were growing up and you can't forget what they said, but it's a fact that they said it. You can't take it away. The only thing that's changeable is what you think about what was said to you. And what's so interesting about thoughts is that we take these sentences in our head from 40 and 50 years ago and think them forever. And we start thinking they're facts. Well, my mother said I was fat when I was 11 years old. I think my mother actually did say that. I took it with me for a while. It made me think something. Like, the fact is, she said it. It's a sea line. And the interesting thing about the sea line is that it's neutral. There's no emotion in the sea line. The only emotion comes from the thought that it triggers and the feeling that is triggered from the thought. So, for instance, if when my mom said that to me or your mom said something similar, your thought may be, there's something wrong with me. 11 years old, never had a thought about that. And then that was said to me, and all of a sudden, something's wrong with me. And then as soon as that thought comes about, it creates this feeling of shame, or it creates this feeling of not good enough. And then from that feeling triggers actions, what you do and what you don't do. So maybe for me, for instance, when that was first said to me, and my thought was, there's something wrong with me, or the thought is, well, I have to lose weight. Yes, 11 years old, for Pete's sake. My action line was, is I really stopped eating. I thought food was a big problem. So my action line was, is I stopped eating and I started telling myself all kinds of things that was BS about myself. I ruminated, and then I started restricting myself with food at a very young age. And the result was, is I created something wrong with me. That was my thought. So our thoughts end up creating our realities because we think them. It makes us feel a certain way. It makes us do things in accordance with the feeling. And then the result is always going to be evidence for that thinking, which is right here. So this is what your model looks like all the time. It always goes in this order. And so funny that I would bring it up about what somebody said to me in my past, which is really true. But I have interviewed and coached so many women where their mothers said something to them when they were young. And the thought that persists inside their brain for 30 and 40 years keeps them in this diet mentality spin because they're carrying this thought about their bodies because they actually thought it was a fact what was said to them. It wasn't. I mean, what was said to them was a fact, but it's just what they thought, what their mother thought, because the mom had issues. You start learning that. But at the time when you're young, you hold on to thoughts as if they're facts and then carry them through your life and don't even realize it. And boy, when you can find one of those, it'll change your life. And I know that I've done it with many, many women, and you might just start thinking about that for yourself if there's anything in your past. And this isn't about therapy. This is really about, because I don't want to go into your past and hear the whole story. But what I think is really interesting is the thoughts you have now in the present moment about something that happened to you a long time ago. Because what you think in the present moment is changeable. What happened to you back then is not changeable. Some things require therapy and some things just require mind management. Some things are traumas that need to be dealt with, and some things are just mind boggling mind problems that need to be addressed and noticed. And boy, what a difference it can make. So that's basically how the model works. And so, like, whenever I'm coaching anybody, this is what goes on in my head all the time. And all I'm doing when somebody's telling me something that's going on for them, I just work the model out in my head so I can point out to you what's going on in your head. So let me give you another example of another model that actually came from my past about rain. So I don't know, maybe 20 or 30 years ago, I started liking to walk, but I would never go and walk when it was raining. I mean, I just didn't think you do that. I believed, so here's the facts. I believed that the fact is it's raining outside. So that is what it is. It's a fact. It can be proven in court. It triggered a sentence in my head that I can't work out. And as soon as I thought that thought, I got very tired emotionally. I needed to get up on the couch and watch TV. I would start telling myself all kinds of stories, but I'll tell you what I told myself is I can't work out. And so the result of that model and those actions of watching TV and laying on the couch is I didn't work out today, which gave me evidence for the thought that I chose to think. I didn't even realize I was choosing it. I just thought nobody works out when it rains. I took that for years. It's like, oh, it's raining. I'm not going anywhere. That's just the way it is. And then I went out one time for, I can't even remember why, and I liked it. Well, this is kind of fun. It's all on the clothes because it was the same thing with it being cold outside. There were all kinds of reasons that I wouldn't go out there. I mean, it had to be perfect in order for me to go for a walk because that was the way my head was working. And my thought is it's very weather dependent. When it's really nice weather, I can walk. And I used to have so many patients who would say to me, well, it's winter. So, I'm probably going to gain some weight because I don't work out in the winter. I don't go outside. These thoughts that keep us in little boxes, and we're thinking that our thoughts are just facts when they're just our thoughts. So, for instance, I have people that I walk with sometimes. And if I make plans with somebody and it's raining outside, they get a little upset because they don't want to go out when it's raining and they know I'm going to want to go because weather doesn't stop me. I mean, to me, all seasons are fun now because I've learned how to manage my mind. And now my thoughts get me outside all the time, no matter what the weather. It just doesn't matter unless it's really going to be threatening to my health. So if it's really, really icy outside, I probably won't go. If it's like way below zero, and I mean way below zero, I probably won't go. If it's a threat to my health. But I have clothes that'll almost get me through anything. And I like all of it because of my mind management. So I'm hoping that explains to you a little bit about the model. And now I want to hear from you. What thoughts do you think have given you results that you don't want? Are you aware of what they even could be? Because I hear a lot from people a lot of times about like when they decide to work with me, probably one of the thoughts that they bring in is it's never worked before. I'll probably fail again. That's just a thought. But when you think that thought and you've been thinking it, you keep creating a result where it doesn't work. And that says thoughts that do not help. Losing weight is hard. Beautiful. And that exactly. And it's like when you can see that model, so the circumstance can be wanting to lose weight, wanting to release weight. I really like this weight release. And your thought is losing weight is hard. The feeling that it's going to create is not going to be a positive emotion, right? It's going to feel like it's going to feel in your body tight and constrictive, maybe hopeless, maybe like, and so the action may be that you don't even try or you give up really fast. And the result is it is hard because of the thought. So it's like the beginning of learning the model and learning what you're thinking is not to change what you're thinking as much as to know that you're thinking it. So in that for you, the first thing that I would do is to talk about it and how could that not be true? Or how is the opposite true? I love to go, when you have a thought, the reason a thought is a thought and a fact is a fact is a thought, there's always evidence on both sides because it's not a fact. Like when the sky is blue, it's not like, well, maybe it's cloudy. The only evidence there is a blue sky because it's a fact. But when it's a thought, like losing weight is hard or losing weight is easy. So it's just the opposite. But there'll be evidence on both sides to be able to show you that that might be true. So the beginning is starting to break up the thought that you're carrying that losing weight is hard. How could it be easier? Why could it be easier? Why might it be easier than you think? So you start playing with thoughts, jiggling the thoughts, depending on how attached you are to the thoughts. Because here's the thing about thoughts. Some thoughts that we've had for a long time, like if losing weight is hard is something that you've been thinking for a long time, it's a hard thought to change because it almost is like you put it in the C line like it's a fact because you believed it for so long and you've proven it for so long because we always create evidence for our thinking. But it's so interesting when I work with people who sometimes come in with that thought is what helps them get through is they'll say something like, you know what? This was easier than I thought. Now that's a thought that you can hold on to. That is a much nicer, kinder thought than losing weight is hard. And a lot of people will come in with that thought. And my job as a coach is number one, for you to see that of all the thoughts that you could choose about losing weight, you're choosing that. And I mean choosing it because you don't have to. It's like I think of thoughts as if you were at a party and somebody was serving appetizers and there was this big tray of appetizers, but instead of appetizers, it was just thoughts. And you had these really lovely thoughts like you are beautiful, you are wonderful, you're brilliant. And then there's these thoughts like you're a piece of scum and you'll never amount to anything and you're ugly and you're fat and you're too old or whatever it is. You get to choose which one of those you want. And it's amazing how many people choose those really yucky ones. You don't realize you're choosing them. You think that because you thought it chose you, but it didn't. You chose it. And the more you choose it, the more it chooses you because it runs automatic, which is why don't believe everything you think, whatever it is. Just don't believe it. But first, you have to know that you're thinking it. First, you have to know that it's just a thought. And that takes a little bit of work. Does anybody else have a thought that they've been thinking for a long time? It could be about your bodies. It could be about anything. And, it's recognizing it first, because when I teach this in courses and classes, it takes a lot longer. So I'm kind of just introducing it to you and giving you some ideas of just what is it that you might be thinking. Let me see. Beth says, oh, I love it. Beth, in order to lose weight, I need to only eat healthy foods. So the thing about healthy foods, because I used to have this thought that as long as I'm eating healthy, it doesn't matter how much I have. So I thought that if it's healthy, I can overeat. And that's just as harmful as what the thing is about the thought is in order to lose weight, I need to only eat healthy foods. Is what kind of feeling do you think that creates? Do you think it creates a feeling of empowerment, or do you think that it immediately creates a feeling of restriction or deprivation? Because then your brain says, well, what about whatever it is you like? Well, I can't, because then your thought will go to, I can't ever have that again if I want to lose weight. It gets more and more into the feeling of restriction and deprivation. And restriction and deprivation lead to weight gain and lead to disconnection of your body every single time. When you feel freedom, when you feel free, when you feel at peace with food as feelings, because a thought like the thought that I love to teach is I can eat whatever I want. I really believe that's the most freeing thought you can ever think, to release as much weight as you want. Because it's not like you're going to walk around eating brownies and potato chips all the time, because I wanted to eat potato chips all the time when I didn't have to lose weight after I'd lost my weight. Then I thought, well, I can just eat potato chips. And all I would do is overeat potato chips. No body connection, no feeling how it feels. Just like I just got to eat it because when I gain that weight back, I got to stop again. I mean, and all of this comes from different thoughts. So is it what you're eating or is it what you're thinking? I am here to tell you the reason I do what I do is because I think it's what you're thinking, and that I'm passionate about it because it's so much easier in some ways. And then that you might like this, it's easier to change what you think than it is to change what you eat. But if you change what you think, you will change what you eat. Only it'll be easy. Oh my God. Do I love that? All right, everybody. That's what I have for you today. I'm running a little late. If anybody has any questions in this last minute, please let me know. I'll be happy to answer it in this minute. Otherwise, it's Jumpstart Wednesday. So jumpstart this week by going, what am I thinking? And one of the ways it'll get your attention about what you're thinking is how you're feeling. And when you're having a negative emotion, that's a good time to check in to see what is the thought that could be causing that feeling. And then you can start filling out a model. All right, everybody. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate it from all over the world. I appreciate it. And I'll see you next week. Bye, everybody. If you're loving my podcast and you would like some more information to be able to follow along with, then please go to drdebbutler.com/change, and you can get a free copy of my companion book that goes with this podcast that I refer to in many different episodes. That is drdebbutler.com/change, CHANGE.